The star sparkled like a diamond against the black canvas of space. The exploration vessel Odyssey slowed as it approached the unexplored solar system. On the bridge, Captain Jack Lewis leaned forward in his command chair, his eyes fixed on the main view screen. "Sensors show signs of artificial structures on the fourth planet, Captain," said Officer Paul Davis from his station. Jack nodded. After 3 years in deep space, they had finally found what humanity had been searching for: intelligent alien life. His heart beat faster, but his voice remained calm. "Take us into orbit, nice and slow. No sudden movements. We're guests here." The Odyssey moved carefully into position above the blue-green world. The crew worked in focused silence. This moment would change human history forever. "We're receiving a transmission," said Communications Officer Lisa Ward, her fingers dancing across her console. I think they're welcoming us." The bridge speakers filled with a melodic language unlike anything they had heard before. Then surprisingly it shifted to broken English. "Visitors from distant stars, we see you. We welcome you." Jack smiled. "Seems our radio transmissions reached them long before we did. Open a channel." He stood up straight, smoothed his uniform, and spoke clearly. "This is Captain Jack Lewis of the Earth vessel Odyssey. We come in peace and friendship." The first meeting happened 3 days later. The aliens called themselves the Narines. They were tall, slender beings with pale blue skin that seemed to shimmer in the light. Their large eyes were deep and expressive, set in face shapes that reminded the humans of elongated hearts. Diplomatic Officer Susan Miller led the first contact team to the planet's surface. As they stepped out of their shuttle, a group of Narines waited in a semicircle. One stepped forward, dressed in flowing robes of green and silver. "I am Kalara, voice of the Narine Harmony," the alien said, the words carefully formed. "Your journey has been long. You must be tired." Susan smiled. "Yes, very long, but worth every moment to meet you." The Narines lived in tall, spiral buildings that blended perfectly with the natural landscape. They showed the humans their cities, their art, and their technology, which was far more advanced than Earth's in many ways. They could harness energy from their star with nearly perfect efficiency. Their medicine could cure diseases that still plagued humanity. But Susan noticed something strange. Despite their technological advancement, the Narines had almost no weapons. When she asked about this, Kalara's expression changed to something like sadness. "We do not make tools of harm," Kalara explained as they walked through a garden of plants that responded to their emotions, blooming more brightly when they approached. "Our people feel the pain of others. To cause suffering is to suffer ourselves." "Then how do you protect yourselves?" Susan asked. Kalara looked up at the stars. "We hide, we run. Sometimes we are found and hurt. This has been our way." Over the next few weeks, Susan and Kalara spent many hours together. Susan learned that the Narines were empaths. They could sense the emotions of others. This ability had shaped their entire civilization, making them deeply compassionate but also vulnerable to more aggressive species. "There are others out there, then?" Captain Jack asked during a briefing. "Other intelligent species besides the Narines?" Susan nodded. "According to Kalara, there's an alliance council of 12 major species that controls much of this sector of the galaxy. The Narines avoid them when possible. Some of the alliance races have taken advantage of the Narines' peaceful nature in the past." Jack frowned. "That doesn't sit right with me." As the human delegation learned more about the galaxy beyond their solar system, the Narines learned about Earth. They were fascinated by human history, though disturbed by its violence. Yet they seemed to understand something about humanity that humans themselves sometimes forgot. "Your kind fights, yes," Kalara said to Susan one evening as they watched the sunset from a high tower. "But you fight hardest when protecting others. This is a rare quality among the stars." 3 months after first contact, the Odyssey was joined by more ships from Earth. Scientists, diplomats, and traders came to learn from the Narines and share human knowledge. The Narines offered humans their advanced technology freely, asking only for friendship and cultural exchange in return. When the first Alliance scout ship appeared at the edge of the system, the Narines grew nervous. Susan found Kalara staring at the sky, trembling slightly. "What's wrong?" Susan asked. "The Vorchans," Kalara whispered. "They lead the Alliance Council. They have wanted our resources for generations. Now they will see we have new friends." The Alliance ship sent a cold, formal message, demanding to know why an unknown species was interfacing with a protectorate of the Alliance. Captain Jack handled the response personally. "We are humans of Earth," he transmitted. "We're here at the invitation of the Narines, who we consider our friends. We'd be happy to open diplomatic channels with your Alliance as well." The reply was quick and dismissive. "Your species is unknown and unregistered. You will withdraw from Narine space while the Council evaluates your status." Jack looked at his bridge crew, then at Kalara, who had been invited to observe. "With all due respect to your Council," he said carefully, "we'll be staying right here, as guests of the Narines. If the Narines are truly a protectorate of your Alliance, perhaps you should have protected them better." The Alliance ship left without further communication, but everyone knew this wasn't the end. Within a year, humans had helped the Narines establish new colonies on previously uninhabited worlds. Human ships now regularly patrolled Narine space. The gentle aliens who could not bring themselves to fight found in humans something they had never had before: defenders who would stand between them and harm. On Earth, the United Nations created a special department for interstellar relations. Pictures of the beautiful Narines and their world hung in schools across the planet. Children dreamed of visiting alien worlds. Adults looked to the stars with new hope. But in distant chambers of the Alliance Council, the Vorchans and their allies watched with growing concern. These humans were advancing too quickly, adapting Narine technology and spreading their influence. Worse, they seemed fiercely protective of their new allies. "They call the humans a young species," growled Draxal, the Vorchan intelligence officer, as he viewed reports of growing human-Narine cooperation. "But they fight like old predators. They must be controlled before they threaten the order we have built." His assistant looked nervous. "The reports say they engage only when provoked. Perhaps if we leave them alone." Draxal cut him off with a harsh gesture. "No species that aggressive should be allowed to gain power. We must test them, find their weaknesses, and if necessary, teach them the price of defiance." As Draxal plotted, Susan, Miller, and Kalara stood on the observation deck of the newly constructed space station orbiting the Narine homeworld. The station, built with human engineering and Narine technology, symbolized their growing partnership. "Do you think the Alliance will accept us working together?" Susan asked. Kalara's expression was troubled, but her voice was hopeful. "They may not have a choice. Something new is beginning here between our peoples. Something the galaxy has not seen before." Neither of them could know just how true those words would prove to be. 5 years passed since humans first met the Narines. The relationship between the two species grew stronger with each passing day. Human ships now regularly traveled through Narine space, and many humans lived on Narine worlds. Earth technology improved rapidly as they learned from their alien friends. In his private chamber on the Alliance capital world, Draxal stared at the reports with growing anger. The reptilian Vorchan's scales darkened along his neck, a sign of his bad mood. The data showed that human presence in this sector had increased by 300% in just 5 years. "Unacceptable," he hissed to his assistant. "These humans reproduce like vermin and spread just as quickly." His assistant, a younger Vorchan named Sevnar, looked nervous. "They seem to focus only on protecting the Narines. They haven't shown interest in challenging the Alliance directly." Draxal slammed his clawed hand on the desk. "You fool! Don't you see? The Narines have resources we need. Their worlds are rich with minerals our empire requires. We've spent decades keeping them weak and isolated, waiting for the right time to take what we want. Now these humans stand in our way." He called up a new image on his screen. It showed a human military vessel escorting Narine transport ships. "The time for watching is over. We must act now before they grow too strong." Draxal's plan was clever, and cruel. Official Alliance forces could not attack humans or Narines directly without causing a major incident. Instead, he would use mercenaries and pirates, groups that could not be traced back to the Alliance. These attacks would target Narine settlements. At the same time, he would start a whisper campaign, spreading rumors that the Narines were not as innocent as they seemed. On a human space station near the border of Narine space, Navy Commander Eric Walsh received troubling news. 3 Narine outposts had been raided in the past month. The attackers took valuable resources and killed several Narines. The pattern suggests organized raids, not random pirate attacks, said his intelligence officer, Lieutenant Ben Harper. Eric nodded, his face serious. Have the Narines requested our help? They're too polite to ask directly, but yes, they're scared. They don't understand violence like this. It confuses them. Eric had spent enough time with Narines to understand their gentle nature. The thought of someone taking advantage of their peaceful ways made his blood boil. Increase our patrols near their settlements. I want our fastest ships ready to respond to any distress call within minutes, not hours. Meanwhile, on the Narine, Homeworld Dr. Amy Parker was working with Narine scientists to study their unique biology. Amy had come to love these gentle aliens, especially her research partner, Zila. They were in the lab when Zila suddenly dropped a sample container, her hands shaking. What's wrong? Amy asked, rushing to her friend's side. Zila's eyes were wide, with distress. Pain, so much pain, many of my people, suffering. Amy helped Zila to a chair. She had learned that Narine empaths could sometimes feel the strong emotions of their people, even across great distances. Where? What's happening? Colony world. Nalara, Zila whispered, her voice trembling. Under attack. Amy immediately called the human military outpost. By the time human ships arrived at Nalara, the damage was done. A settlement of 500 Narines had been raided. The attackers had taken all valuable materials and destroyed much of the colony. 30 Narines were dead, many more injured. Captain Laura Harris of the protection vessel Defender was first on the scene. She had never seen such senseless destruction. The Narines had no weapons, had put up no fight. This wasn't just theft. It was cruelty. As human medics helped the wounded Narines, Laura found something strange in the ruins. A weapon left behind by the attackers. It had markings that matched those used by a known mercenary group that operated on the edges of Alliance space. Send this to Commander Walsh, she ordered. This wasn't a random attack. Someone hired these killers. Back on Earth, things were getting complicated in a different way. An Alliance diplomatic delegation had arrived, asking to speak with the United Nations Security Council. Their message was troubling. We come with concerns about your alliance with the Narines, said the lead diplomat, a tall, elegant alien from a species called the Levians. There is evidence that the Narines are not what they appear to be. The human delegates looked confused. President Helen Grant, a strong supporter of the human-Narine friendship, spoke first. What exactly are you suggesting? The Levian diplomat activated a holographic display. It showed images of Narines using their empathic abilities. The Narines are powerful empaths, as you know. What you may not know is that they can also influence emotions, not just sense them. We have reason to believe they may be subtly manipulating humans, creating unnatural feelings of protectiveness and loyalty. The room filled with angry voices. Secretary of Defense William Coleman stood up. That's ridiculous. We've worked with the Narines for 5 years. Our scientists have studied their abilities extensively. The Levian looked sad, as if pitying the humans. Of course you would defend them. That is exactly what we would expect if you were under their influence. As the diplomatic crisis grew on Earth, Commander Eric Walsh was piecing together evidence from multiple raids. The pattern was becoming clear. The attacks targeted only Narine settlements, never human ones. The raiders always seemed to know exactly when human protection ships would be farthest away. Someone is feeding them information, he told his team. Someone who knows our patrol schedules. Lieutenant Harper looked up from his data pad. Sir, I've been tracking the mercenary ships. They're receiving payment through a complex network, but I've traced it back to an account connected to Alliance. Military intelligence. Eric's eyes narrowed. So the Alliance is behind this, but they want to keep their hands clean. A message from Earth arrived, informing them of the Alliance's claims about Narine manipulation. Eric laughed bitterly. Now I understand. They attack the Narines, then try to break our alliance by making us distrust them. It's a classic divide and conquer strategy. He called Dr. Amy Parker on the Narine homeworld. Amy, we need to gather hard evidence of Alliance involvement in these attacks. Without proof, Earth might start doubting our Narine friends. Amy had been thinking the same thing. I've been working with Zila to document the attacks. The Narines can sense emotions, remember? The survivors all felt the same thing from the attackers. They were not acting out of hatred or greed, but following orders. They felt professional. Professional killers, Eric said grimly. Hired guns. There's something else, Amy added. The Narine elders have told me that the Alliance, especially the Vorshans, have been pressuring them for mining rights on their outer worlds for decades. Worlds rich in rare elements that the Alliance needs for their technology. The pieces were falling into place. Eric thanked Amy and ended the call. He turned to his team. We need to catch these mercenaries in the act. That means predicting where they'll strike next. His tactical officer, Sarah Lewis, studied the map of Narine colonies. Based on the pattern, I think they'll hit here next, she said, pointing to a small Narine settlement on the edge of their territory. It's isolated, resource-rich, and our nearest patrol ship would take 40 minutes to respond. Eric nodded. Then that's where we'll set our trap. But we won't tell anyone, not even Earth. This stays between us. Someone is leaking our plans, and until we know who, we trust no one. What Eric didn't know was that Draxal was already planning something much bigger than raids on small colonies. The Vorchan had grown impatient with the slow progress. The humans are not backing down, he told his inner circle. We need to send a message they cannot ignore, one that will break their will to fight. His target was Nova Haven, the largest, joint human-Narine colony in the sector, home to thousands of Narines and hundreds of humans, a symbol of their cooperation and friendship. Destroy it, Draxal ordered. Leave no one alive. Nova Haven was beautiful at night. The colony's lights sparkled against the dark landscape of the planet. It was the pride of human Narine cooperation. 10,000 Narines lived there alongside 800 humans. They had built something special together, a place where both species could live in harmony. Lieutenant Samantha Green stood on the bridge of her patrol ship, the Sentinel. It was a small vessel with a crew of just 20. Their job was to protect Nova Haven and the surrounding space. Sam loved her post. The Narines treated her crew like family, always welcoming them with feasts when they returned from patrol. Lieutenant, we're picking up some strange readings at the edge of the system, said Radar Officer John Kelly. His voice was calm, but his eyes showed worry. Sam moved to his station. What kind of readings? Several large objects just dropped out of faster-than-light travel. They're not broadcasting any identification signals. Sam felt a chill run down her spine. How many? 5 ships. Bigger than us. Much bigger. Sam hit the alarm button. Battle stations. Contact Nova Haven immediately. Tell them to activate their defense shields. The Sentinel was not built for combat against large warships. It was a patrol vessel, designed to handle small threats and pirates, but it was the only human military ship in the system. Sam opened a channel to the unknown vessels. This is Lieutenant Samantha Green of the Earth Vessel Sentinel. You have entered protected space. Identify yourselves immediately. No answer came. Instead, the 5 ships accelerated toward Nova Haven. They're powering up weapons, John shouted. Sam made a quick decision. Put us between them and the colony. Divert all power to forward shields, and keep trying to contact them. The Sentinel moved into position. A tiny ship facing 5 attackers. Sam knew they couldn't win this fight, but they might buy time for the colonists. Still no response, Lieutenant, said Communications Officer Mia Wilson. But I've reached Nova Haven. They're activating emergency protocols and evacuation procedures. Sam nodded. The colony had shelters built underground. If the Narines and humans could reach them in time. The first enemy ship fired. The energy blast hit the Sentinel's shields, making the whole ship shake. "Shields at 60%, shouted Engineer Greg Nelson. Sam gave her orders calmly. "Return fire, target their weapon systems only." The Sentinel fired its limited weapons. They hit one of the enemy ships, causing minor damage, but it wasn't enough. The 5 ships simply spread out and continued toward Nova Haven. "They're ignoring us," John said in disbelief. Sam realized the truth with horror. "We're not their target, we never were." The enemy ships reached orbit around Nova Haven and opened fire on the colony below. Energy beams cut through buildings, like they were made of paper. The colony's shields had not fully activated yet. Parts of Nova Haven were completely exposed. "No!" Sam slammed her fist on the console. "Target their engines, we need to stop at least one of them." The Sentinel fired again and again, focusing all its firepower on one enemy ship. Finally, they hit something critical. The enemy ship's engines flared and went dark. "We got one," Greg said, but it was too late to celebrate. The other 4 ships continued their bombardment. The Sentinel's communication system filled with distress calls from the surface. "They're targeting the Narine district," Mia reported, her voice breaking. It's like they know exactly where to hit." Sam felt rage build inside her. These weren't random attackers. This was planned, targeted. Someone wanted the Narines dead. "Launch all emergency shuttles," she ordered. "Get down there and evacuate as many as you can." The Sentinel had 4 small shuttles, each capable of carrying 30 people. It wasn't much, but it was something. "What about us?" John asked. "We stay and fight," Sam said. "We give those shuttles time." For the next hour, the Sentinel engaged in a desperate battle. They couldn't stop the bombardment, but they managed to distract the enemy ships enough that they couldn't focus all their firepower on the colony. Meanwhile, the shuttles landed in Nova Haven and began loading survivors. Sam received a direct call from the surface. It was Kalara, the Narine ambassador who had become a symbol of human-Narine friendship. "Samantha, my friend." Kalara's voice was weak. "The children, many are trapped in the learning center. Can your people reach them?" Sam immediately redirected one of the shuttles. "We'll get them out, Kalara. Where are you? Are you safe?" There was a pause. "Do not worry about me. Save the children." The call ended. Sam tried to reach Kalara again, but there was no answer. The battle continued. The Sentinel took heavy damage. 2 of the enemy ships broke off their attack on the colony to focus on the human vessel. "Shields at 15%, Greg reported. "Hull breaches on decks 2 and 3. We can't take much more of this." Sam looked at the tactical display. 2 of their shuttles were already heading back to the Sentinel, full of survivors. The other 2 were still on the surface. "Hold position until all shuttles are back," she ordered. "Then we retreat." Her crew nodded grimly. They all understood what was at stake. When the final shuttle docked, Sam gave the order to withdraw. The Sentinel limped away from Nova Haven, its engines struggling to reach escape velocity. Behind them, the enemy ships were finishing their attack on the colony. Sensors showed that almost 80% of Nova Haven was destroyed. In the shuttle bay, Sam met the survivors. 300 Narines had been saved, mostly children and elders. Only 20 humans had made it out. The rest had stayed behind to help more Narines escape. A small Narine child approached Sam. Her blue skin was covered in dust, and her large eyes were filled with tears. "Where is Kalara?" Sam asked one of the adult Narines. The Narine lowered his head. She remained in the central district helping the wounded. That area was hit the hardest. Sam closed her eyes briefly. Kalara was gone. The gentle, wise Narine who had done so much to build friendship between their species was dead. As the Sentinel jumped to faster-than-light travel, Sam recorded a message to send to Earth. She listed the details of the attack, the number of survivors, the tactics used by the enemy ships. Then she added a personal note. This was not a random attack. The enemy specifically targeted Narines. They knew exactly where to hit and when. This was planned. Someone wanted to hurt our allies, possibly to drive a wedge between humans and Narines. If that was their goal, they have failed. This attack has only strengthened my resolve, and I believe Earth will feel the same. Whoever did this must be held accountable. They must learn that to hurt the Narines is to earn the fury of humanity. 3 days later, the Sentinel reached the nearest human military base. The survivors were given medical care and places to stay. News of the Nova Haven massacre spread quickly across human space. People were shocked, then angry. Sam delivered her report directly to Commander Eric Walsh. She showed him the sensor, readings, the attack patterns, the precision with which the enemy had targeted Narine areas. This matches the pattern of the smaller raids, Eric said grimly. But on a much larger scale, they're not even trying to hide their intentions anymore. Who are they? Sam asked. Who would do this? Eric shared his findings about the connection to Alliance intelligence. We believe Vorshan military leaders are behind this, but we need proof before we can act. How many more Narines need to die before we get proof? Sam's voice was hard. Before Eric could answer, a message arrived from Earth. It was from President Helen Grant herself. Her face on the screen looked tired but determined. Commander Walsh, Lieutenant Green, she said. I've just met with the Security Council. The attack on Nova Haven was the last straw. Earth will not stand by while our allies are slaughtered. As of this moment, we are mobilizing the entire fleet. I want you to know that your actions at Nova Haven saved hundreds of lives. Lieutenant Green, your bravery will not be forgotten. And to our enemies, whoever they may be, I have only this to say: you have awakened a sleeping giant. Prepare to face the consequences. Sam and Eric looked at each other. Earth was going to war. The news of the Nova Haven massacre spread across Earth like wildfire. Videos from the attack showed the beautiful colony in flames, Narine children crying, and human colonists dying while trying to save their alien friends. Earth's population, normally divided on many issues, united in grief and rage. President Richard Coleman stood before the United Nations General Assembly. The room was packed with representatives from every nation on Earth. Screens behind him showed images of Nova Haven before and after the attack. 5 years ago, humanity met the Narines. He began, his voice strong and clear. They welcomed us, with open hearts. They shared their knowledge freely. They asked only for friendship in return. And how has the galaxy repaid their kindness? With cruelty, with violence, with death. He paused, looking around the room. Every face showed anger or sorrow. We came to the stars in peace. We found friends, not conquests. And now those friends lie dead because we failed to protect them. This is not just an attack on the Narines. This is an attack on humanity itself. The assembly erupted in applause and shouts of agreement. Today I am authorizing the full mobilization of Earth's combined fleets. Every ship, every soldier, every resource we have will be dedicated to one purpose: justice for Nova Haven and protection for our Narine allies. The vote to approve the war measure was unanimous, something that had never happened before in UN history. Admiral Carol Bennett watched the speech from her office at Fleet Command. She was a veteran of Earth's unification wars with 30 years of military service. The president had already informed her that she would lead the response fleet. Her aide entered the room. Admiral, all fleet commanders are assembled in the conference room. Carol nodded and stood up. She was a tall woman with gray hair cut short in military style. Her face showed the experience of many battles, but her eyes burned with new purpose. In the conference room, 20 fleet commanders waited, some joined by hologram from bases around the solar system. Carol didn't waste time on formalities. Ladies and gentlemen, we face an enemy that believes they understand human warfare from reading our history books. They believe they know our tactics, our strategies, our capabilities. They are wrong. She activated a holographic display showing the known territories of the Alliance races, focusing on Vorkan space. Intelligence points to the Vorkans as the architects of the Nova Haven massacre. They've hidden behind mercenaries and pirates until now, but we have enough evidence to act. Our mission is clear: disable their military capability and expose their crimes to the rest of the galaxy. One of the commanders raised a hand. Admiral, The Vorshans have been spacefaring for centuries longer than us. Their technology is more advanced. Their fleet is larger. Carol smiled grimly. They have more ships, yes. Better weapons, perhaps. But they lack something crucial. Motivation. The Alliance believes humans are dangerous because of our history of warfare, but they don't understand that we've never fought for something we loved before. Not like this. She outlined her strategy. It was bold, aggressive, and unlike anything humans had done in space before. The combined fleets would split into 3 task forces. One would protect remaining Narine worlds. Another would gather more evidence of Vorshan involvement. The third and largest would prepare for direct action against Vorshan military targets. We depart in 48 hours, Carol concluded. The enemy expects us to take weeks to organize. We'll be moving in 2 days. While military preparations continued, civilian engineers worked on their own projects. In a research facility on Yazor, Mars, engineer Frank Martinez was finishing a modification to human ship propulsion systems. Frank had worked closely with Narine scientists for years. After the Nova Haven attack, he had thrown himself into applying Narine principles to human technology. The result was a new drive system that could bypass the Alliance's early warning networks. It works by mimicking natural space phenomena, he explained to Admiral Bennett over a secure channel. Their sensors will read our ships as background radiation or cosmic disturbances until we're right on top of them. How soon can we implement this? Carol asked. I've sent the specifications to all shipyards. The modifications are relatively simple. Your fleet will have them before departure. Carol nodded appreciatively. Good work, Frank. This could save thousands of lives. I'm not doing it to save our lives, Frank said quietly. I had friends on Nova Haven. Narine friends, this is for them. Across human space, similar scenes played out. Scientists, engineers, soldiers, and civilians all contributed to the war effort. People donated supplies for surviving Narines. Children sent drawings and letters of support. It was a level of unity humanity had rarely achieved. On the diplomatic front, Earth representatives contacted other races in the galaxy. Many were part of the Alliance but not directly involved in the attacks. Earth's message was simple: stand aside or be considered enemies. Some chose to support the Vorshans out of fear or loyalty to the Alliance. Others, impressed by humanity's resolve, declared neutrality. A few, races that had also suffered under Vorshan dominance, quietly offered assistance. The Narine survivors played an important role as well. They traveled to Earth to tell their stories. In one historic moment, a young Narine named Tiri addressed the UN Assembly. My people cannot fight, she said, her voice soft but clear. It is not in our nature. But we can bear witness. We can tell the truth. The Alliance claims to protect, but they destroy. They claim to bring order, but they bring pain. We are fortunate that humans understand something the Alliance does not. True strength comes from defending others, not dominating them. 2 days after President Coleman's speech, the human fleet was ready. It was the largest space force ever assembled by Earth. 500 warships, 300 support vessels, and over 100,000 personnel. Admiral Carol Bennett stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Avenger. The massive ship hummed with power as final preparations were made for departure. The Alliance believes they understand human warfare from our history books, she told her captains in a final briefing. They don't understand that we've never fought to avenge someone we love. As the fleet prepared to depart, a message arrived from deep space. It was from Draxal, the Vorshan intelligence officer. Somehow he had learned of Earth's plans. Your species is young and foolish, his message said. You rush to defend weaklings who cannot defend themselves. The Narines are nothing. They exist, to be used by stronger races. Challenge the Alliance and you will be crushed like insects. This is your only warning. Carol ordered a response sent. We have a warning for you as well. Humanity has been peaceful until now because we chose to be, not because we had to be. You have taken that choice from us. What comes next is on your head. With those words, the human fleet departed the solar system. Their faster-than-light drives engaged, enhanced with Frank Martinez's modifications. They disappeared from normal space, invisible to Alliance early warning systems. The humans were coming, and for the first time in their long history, the Vorshans did not see danger approaching until it was too late. Draxal stood on the command platform of the Vorshan defense station. He felt completely safe. The station orbited the Vorshan homeworld, protected by energy shields and hundreds of warships. The Vorshan Empire had stood for 2,000 years. No enemy had ever reached their home system. "Sir, the outer defense grid reports all systems normal," said his second-in-command. "No sign of human vessels." Draxal nodded, his scaled skin gleaming under the bright lights. "Of course not. Their primitive technology cannot hope to penetrate our detection systems. When they finally arrive, we will be ready." What Draxal didn't know was that the human fleet was already there, hiding in plain sight. Frank Martinez's modifications worked perfectly. The Alliance sensors saw only normal space radiation where human ships waited. Admiral Carol Bennett gave the order. "All ships, disengage stealth systems and move to attack positions. Remember the plan. Disable, don't destroy. We want justice, not vengeance." Across the Vorshan system, human ships suddenly appeared on their sensors. The Vorshans were caught. Completely by surprise, impossible, Draxal shouted as alarms blared around him. How did they get past our outer defenses? There was no time to find answers. The human attack had begun. Unlike the brutal bombardment of Nova Haven, the human assault was surgical and precise. They targeted military installations, weapons platforms, and communication centers. They avoided civilian areas completely. Captain Daniel Wright led the strike team assigned to capture Draxal. His ship, the Eclipse, was one of the fastest in the human fleet. They slipped past the confused Vorchan defenses and approached the main station. "All hands, prepare for boarding action," Daniel announced. "Remember, we want Draxal alive. He must answer for his crimes." The Eclipse attached itself to the station, using magnetic clamps. Armored soldiers cut through the outer hull and entered the Vorshan facility. They moved quickly through the corridors, disabling Vorshan defenders with stun weapons. Daniel led from the front. He was a veteran soldier who had lost friends on Nova Haven, but he followed his orders strictly. This was about justice, not revenge. They reached the command center and found Draxal trying to escape through a private shuttle bay. Daniel himself tackled the Vorchan to the ground. "Draxal, you are under arrest for the massacre at Nova Haven and crimes against both human and Nareen people," he said, pulling the alien to his feet. Draxal hissed in anger. "You cannot judge me, human. I am a high official of the Alliance Council." Daniel looked him in the eyes. "That's exactly why you must face justice. No one is above the law, not even you." Across the Vorshan system, the battle ended quickly. The human fleet had achieved complete surprise. Within hours, the Vorshan military was disabled. Their ships were trapped in dock, their weapons offline, their communications cut. Meanwhile, other human ships carried out equally important missions. They accessed Vorshan databases, downloading proof of Draxal's conspiracy. They found orders for the attacks on Nareen settlements, payment records for the mercenaries, and even Draxal's personal logs discussing the plan. Admiral Bennett ordered this evidence broadcast on all communication channels across the galaxy. Every species connected to the galactic network could see the truth of what had happened. "People of the galaxy," she said in the broadcast, "we are humans of Earth. We came to the stars seeking friendship and knowledge. When our friends, the Nareens, were attacked, we sought justice. Today, we share with you the evidence of crimes committed by Vorchan leadership against peaceful people." The reaction across the galaxy was immediate. Many Alliance races were shocked by the evidence. Some had suspected Vorchan brutality, but had never seen such clear proof. Others had been victims of similar tactics in the past. On the Vorshan homeworld, civilians watched in horror as their leaders' crimes were exposed. Many had believed the government's claims that the Nareens were manipulating humans. Now they saw the truth. 3 days after the human attack, representatives from dozens of species arrived in the Vorshan system. Some came in anger, others in support, all in curiosity about these humans who had defeated the mighty Vorchans so easily. Captain Daniel Wright stood on a platform before representatives from across the galaxy. Behind him, Draxal was held in a transparent cell. The event was being broadcast to trillions of beings on countless worlds. Many expected the humans to execute Draxal as an example. Instead, Daniel made an announcement that surprised everyone. "Today marks a new beginning for galactic society," he said. "Humans do not seek conquest or dominance. We seek justice. That is why we will not act as judge, jury, and executioner. Instead, we propose the creation of a galactic judiciary, where representatives from all species will serve as judges. Draxal and his conspirators will be the first to stand trial there." A murmur ran through the gathered representatives. This was not what anyone had expected from the supposedly violent humans. "Furthermore," Daniel continued, "we propose a new interstellar charter, one based not on the right of the strong to rule the weak, but on the responsibility of the strong to protect the weak, one that recognizes the value of all intelligent life, whether they can defend themselves or not." The remaining Narines watched these events from their homeworld. Many still mourned those lost at Nova Haven, including Kalara. But as they witnessed the human response, they felt something new, hope for a better future. Over the next month, representatives from dozens of species worked together to draft the new charter. The Alliance Council was dissolved and replaced with a galactic congress where all species had equal voice. The Vortian Empire was reduced in size and power, their military placed under strict oversight. The final provision of the new charter became known across the galaxy as the Human Warning. It stated simply, "Those who prey upon the peaceful will answer to humanity." It wasn't just a threat. It was a promise that transformed humans from newcomers to guardians of a more just galactic order. 6 months after the Nova Haven massacre, a memorial was built on the site of the destroyed colony. It featured a statue of Kalara, the Narine ambassador who had first extended friendship to humans. Around the base of the statue were written words in both human and Narine languages. "True strength lies not in the ability to conquer, but in the will to protect." Admiral Carol Bennett stood before the memorial, looking up at Kalara's gentle face. Beside her stood Zila, the Narine scientist who had worked with Dr. Amy Parker. "Do you think we did the right thing?" Carol asked quietly. "We changed the course of galactic history in just a few months." Zila placed a hand on the Admiral's shoulder. "You showed the galaxy something it had never seen before. Power used for protection, not domination. Many still fear humans, but now, they also respect you. That is a beginning." Across the stars, species who had lived under the shadow of Alliance dominance began to rebuild their societies, free from fear of Vorchan reprisal. They reached out to both humans and Narines, forming new bonds of friendship and cooperation. The stars themselves seemed to whisper the lesson that would echo through the centuries. Never mistake human kindness for weakness, for nothing in the galaxy is more dangerous than humans protecting those they consider friends.